everyone, I'm here today with Kaylee Frederick, all the way over from America. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's really lovely having you on. So from my research, you're one of the youngest people to ever complete the Badwater 135. Can you tell me a bit kind of how you found ultra running at such a young age?
Yeah, so I was actually the youngest person to ever do it at 18 years old. And so I started running when I was 7 years old. I just ran 5Ks and 10Ks, and I got pretty competitive with it. I was winning some of the local races, nothing big. But when I was 13, my elementary school music teacher asked me to run a half marathon, and my exact thoughts were like, I can't do that. Only the elite runners could do that. Like, I thought only Olympic runners would run a half marathon. I was like, no way. And she was like, no, we'll run it together. We'll run it slow. If we have to walk, we'll walk. We'll just have fun. And so I agreed. And I was like, wow, that was actually amazing. So then I was looking for a marathon, and not a lot of races would let me in at 14 years old. So I ended up finding one finally. And then my friend Kristen was like, an ultra marathon is only 5 more miles. So to run a 50K. So then I ran a 50K, and we know how it goes from there.
Yeah, just stepping it up and up and up. So what
Yeah.
drew you to the Badwater specifically?
My friend Keith Straw, who's actually from the UK, he was an 8-time finisher at the time. I met him at my first marathon, and we were just friends ever since. And he told me, like, I think you could be the youngest finisher of this race. And coming from him, who is such a respected, well-known ultra runner who had run the race 8 times, I was like, if he believes in me, then I should believe in me. And then I just got really into the race. I always dreamed of doing it. And then finally, I was able to get in, and it's all history then.
Wow, that's so amazing. Do you want to tell me a bit about kind of your training? Obviously, you were probably still in school around the time that you were training, yeah? So
Yeah.
tell me kind of like the balance you maybe got between school and, that's such a huge probably training plan.
Yeah, so it's a lot, I will say that, but I've always been, my whole life, I've been involved in everything. I do all the sports and everything. So I'm used to having a packed schedule. So between school, work, my training plan, CrossFit, and I did track in the spring, which was mainly when I was training for this race. It's a lot, but I've just been in early morning and late night runs, and a lot of heat training especially goes into this race because I know I can go the distance. Not that I don't have to train, I still have to keep my training up, but most of it was heat training because we reach a solid maybe 80 degrees in Pennsylvania, which is nowhere near what it reaches out in Death Valley.
Well, so tell me what heat training is then.
I did a lot of sauna work. The sauna I used was pretty small, so I actually couldn't really work out in there. I would just sit in there and read David Goggins books. Uh, Both of his books I ended up reading. And then I would just layer up in a whole bunch of clothes. I would do CrossFit workouts like that. I would run like that. And I actually got a sauna suit. It just looks like aluminum foil. And I looked crazy, but I didn't care because it was hot. So I was ready to.
Wow, that's amazing. So, do you want to kind of walk me through your experience, maybe from, when you got there, being the youngest? Was it kind of a little bit like, wow, I really, because the average ultra runner is about, mid 30s. So, what was kind of arriving there like? Were you nervous, or were you kind of, you'd done the work and you were ready to do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew I'd do the work, and I knew I was ready to be there, but I was definitely still a little nervous because I knew I had so many people watching me, just like from home, the whole community. It was crazy. My community was so great. I love them so much how they followed me, but I knew I just had so many people watching, and I couldn't let them down. And like Chris Crossman, who's the race director, like I knew he took a risk by letting an 18-year-old girl into the race, so I couldn't let him down. But I was so excited when I got to like the check-in, and there were all of these runners there, all these volunteers. I was just so excited. I got to meet Ashley Paulson and Harvey Lewis, who they I've been following Harvey Lewis since I was a child. Like, it was so amazing to meet them. I was so, so excited. So definitely, I was a little nervous, a little terrified because I knew what I was about to do, but I would say the excitement was definitely way overpowering.
So, what was the race like? Kind of walk me through your race. What were the highlights? What were the low points?
Yeah, so the worst part was definitely the sleep deprivation the second night, which I expected all my 100 plus milers. I struggle with sleep deprivation, but that's okay. We just adjusted. I ended up taking a 20-minute nap 90 miles into Darwin, and that was my only planned nap. But I ended up taking two 10-minute naps and one 5-minute nap just because I could tell I started like swerving all over the road, and I didn't want to accidentally step off the side of the road and roll an ankle or something, 'cause we're not doing that.
No.
I had enough time to work with that I could stop and take a quick rest. So I did that. And I mean, I got through the second night, and once the sun came up, I felt so much better because it was daylight out. I was getting so close to the end. I was like 15 miles from the end. And once I got there, I was like, this is it, you know. The whole race, I definitely tried to keep a smile on. Everyone told me every time they saw me, I was smiling, and I'm like, I didn't feel like it, but I just wanted to. Like, I knew even the low points that you hit in ultra running, like I knew I wanted to be there, and I that was my dream, you know, and I knew all the low points came with that. So even in my worst of the worst, I just tried to keep a smile on because that was my dream. I wanted to be there, and I knew I had to go through it all to accomplish finally getting to the finish line. So
What were some of your favorite moments? Were there kind of the the sunrises, the sunsets, like your crew around you? What was all that like?
yeah, it was amazing, everything. Like you said, the sunrise, the from the second night, the sun was rising, and I was by the Sierras, so just watching the sunrise over the Sierras was beautiful. And same with the sunset, the sun was setting just as I was leaving Death Valley, and I was like, this is perfect. I'm getting out of Death Valley finally. The sun is setting. It was so pretty. And my favorite part was definitely the finish, you know, finally getting done. But just because there were, I mean, I was there, I hung out at the finish for a couple hours just because I love the hype, I love the excitement, and I was waiting for Keith to finish. And it was just so cool to get to talk to other runners after the race. You know, I had talked to them before the race and how we were all feeling before, and just to hear other runners' stories because everyone's out there for their own reason and gone to ultra running their own way. So that's really my favorite part is just getting to talk to other runners and hearing who they are and why they're out there.
Amazing. So tell me a bit about your nutrition. What kind of kit were you wearing? Because it's like when I was watching it, like the average temperature was something crazy, like 50 degrees. So tell me kind of a bit about that. Was the heat exposure therapy kind of worth it, do you think?
Yeah, so as far as nutrition wise, I always struggle to eat when I run. So my mom was my crew chief, and you know, she knows how I work super well, and the rest of the crew learned super quickly that they would always ask me like, what do you want at the next eight, like when we stop again, and I would tell them I want tailwind or I want water. They would say, what do you want to eat? And I would say nothing. They would be like, no, you have to eat. What do you want to eat? So then it was good because they made me eat early on for later when I actually couldn't eat. So I'm so thankful for my crew for making me eat. I did a lot of like fruit. I had watermelon, grapes. Those are super easy to get down. Well, not super easy, but easier. I actually had like 18 cheese sticks, like the string cheese, which is super weird, but it works for me. So I just kind of went with it. And that's mainly what I ate. And then Tailwind, I swear by Tailwind. I don't even know how much of that for my electrolytes and Pedialyte too, as far as nutrition. And as far as what I wore Saucony Endorphin Shift 2 shoes. I wore one pair of shoes the whole race. I was fine. I didn't need to change them or anything. And I wore Ingenie socks. They're like the toe socks, which I actually switched to those kind of recently, and they've helped me a lot with blisters and not getting blisters. So if y'all struggle with blisters, you should try them. Um, And as far as exposure, there's no shade there. You're in a desert. There's nothing. So I wore a long sleeve. It's a thin white shirt. It's actually like made for the desert, which was I didn't get sunburn at all, which was great. And my legs, I got really bad heat rash on my legs just from the sun hitting them and from the heat coming up from the road, which I expected, but I also didn't want to run in pants just because that makes me pretty uncomfortable. So it was kind of a one way or the other. One way I was going to be uncomfortable, one way I was going to have heat rash. So, I mean, I dealt with it. You know, what can you do? But that's really the worst thing that happened to me was I got pretty bad heat rash, but it was good. It was worth it.
If that was the worst thing, then I think you absolutely kind of smashed what you needed to do, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
okay with heat rash.
yeah, in the grand scheme of things. Um, so you kind of already touched on it, but kind of tell me, how did it feel when you knew you were only maybe 5K away from the finish line? Like what did that feel like?
It was amazing. So the last checkpoint is 3.6 miles from the finish line. So when I saw that last like tent that said Badwater, I was like, I'm done with the race. I did it. All I have to do is run just over 5K. And it was amazing. It was so surreal. The last 3.6 miles, I just kept saying over and over, like, God is so good. This is so amazing. My one crew member, Fran, when she was pacing me, she actually took a video of me just saying, God is so good. And I was just going on. I was like, you see that road out there? That's where we came from. We were the whole way out there because at the top of Mount Whitney, you can see everything. Or, well, we weren't at the top of Mount Whitney. We were at Whitney Portal, but so we were 8,000 feet in the air, and you could see just for miles and miles and miles where we came from. And I was like, we just did all that. Like, I just ran that whole thing. And I was like, my belt buckle is right up there. It's 3 miles away. I'm going to get it. You know, it was so surreal to just know I finished the race. No matter what happens, I could break my leg and I would still have plenty of time to crawl to the finish. It was just so surreal to know I was going to finish the race.
What's the feedback been like? What was your community like? What were your friends saying? Was it kind of a huge uproar of amazement when you finished?
Absolutely. I actually didn't realize how many people were following the race until after the fact, whenever I finally checked my phone and it took me like 6 hours to scroll through social media. It was amazing just to see how many people were following me and supporting me. And when I got home, people in like my local running club had actually decorated my whole house with like balloons and
Oh,
congratulations, and they had a big banner. Um, they printed out like a poster that had a picture of me from the race that said congratulations youngest finisher. It was amazing. Just the community support behind me like was absolutely unmatched. I never would have imagined that.
so how do you hope to inspire other young women to begin ultra running?
Oh my goodness, just do it. Don't listen to people around you. You know, I would absolutely love to use what I've done. You know, I started ultra running when I was 14 years old. People thought I was crazy. They told me not to do it. But I've known from a young age that you're never promised tomorrow. So do it today. I live by that. And I just hope that I can inspire other young women and just anyone for that matter that it doesn't really matter how old you are, what background you come from. If you have a dream, go after it. Like it doesn't matter if people tell you you're too young, you're too old, you don't have this, you don't have that. It doesn't matter. Just go after your dreams.
Wow, that's so inspiring. Honestly, that's a really, really inspirational thing. That's amazing. Well, congratulations, honestly. What was your finishing time overall?
40 hours, 6 minutes, and 43 seconds.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, honestly. That's all my
Thank you.
questions. Do you want to go run and get your belt buckle?
Yeah, yeah, I'll go quick. But,
Wow.
yeah. And then on the back, I don't know how to say it in the language that it's in, but it says what it means is let it be given to those most worthy. I don't even remember what language it is. Maybe Latin or I can look. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even want to try and say it, but it means let it be given to those most worthy, which I actually love because this race is absolutely crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's honestly a phenomenal achievement. I know that less people have those buckles than people who have climbed Mount Everest. So it really is a phenomenal achievement that you've done.
Yeah.
And I wish you so much luck for the future, because I already know I'm going to be reaching out in the future to talk to you more about all the amazing races you're doing.
Well,
Um,
thank you so much.
thank you. I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me today.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for letting me speak with you. I appreciate it.